Last night was our first taste of how these 2 weeks of racing will go at Detroit. The silver lining is we saw respectful, clean, yet exciting racing all throughout the night. The foreboding storm is, as we expected, the track eventually eliminated a number of drivers over the course of the race. There's no room to get complacent. Everyone will have to be at the top of their game tonight as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 9 Pro Class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Cameron Aubernon is on social media, and Ryan Bauer is producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Series 9 emphasizes driver patience and racecraft skills with intense traffic management. Before we get to the more open circuits, drivers' focus is taken to the limit on one of the few street layouts available in iRacing. Also, we're proud to announce that Pirelli is back as the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor for Series 9. Pirelli was founded in Milan in 1872 and today stands as a global brand known for its cutting-edge technology, high-end production, excellence, and passion for innovation that draws heavily on its Italian roots. Pirelli is among the world's major supplier of tires and is an OEM supplier to Porsche. Find more about Pirelli at Pirelli.com. Series is also brought to you by Six Sigma Sim Racing, which was founded in 2021 by automotive engineers as a new sim racing equipment provider. After 1 year, Six Sigma now has divisions in the USA, Japan, Australia, and Europe, providing the best valued sim racing cockpits and peripherals. Six Sigma offers 10% off to any PCA member from the website, and the coupon code is PCA Sim. For more information about Six Sigma Sim Racing, please visit the website at sixsigmasimracing.com. That's the number 6, sigmaracing.com. Now, as we take a look at the track once again, DJ, we, as I said, had a little bit of a taste last night. So what did we learn about how the Porsche does here?
Well, what we learned is that the bumps, and particularly the higher speed corners around here, Joe, are certainly the areas where you're going to find yourself a little bit caught out. We did see a couple of drivers getting it wrong, coming up over turn 2 and across the little bump there right now as they continue to work their way through. Also, we saw some problems really arising through turns 7 and 8 right now. Those are going to be the 2 flashpoints. But again, the main overtaking opportunities on this track into 3 and into 7, that is going to be the best place to try to get a move done, although what we learned last night, very, very tricky.
Yeah, that we saw a number of drivers that you'd think would have the move done and just could not quite do it. Now, if you want to keep track of what all is happening with PCA, a reminder that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. So they're way with the provisional poll. But for basically about half of qualifying now, DJ, the top 4 have been separated by nothing. This is the farthest apart they've been for some time, and it's still barely over a tenth.
Yeah, it is ridiculously close. And Joe, this entire 34-car field separated by less than 2 seconds. It is remarkable. Indeed, the top 26 are only separated by 1 second alone. And we saw this a lot yesterday out of the class yesterday. I think this is going to be a very, very close run for all of these drivers. And just one little mistake during the course of this race is going to be enough to throw you out.
Now, speaking of being able to see the product demonstrated live, here we go. This is a Six Sigma Sim Racing rig right here that Liam Rixides is driving in as he comes on his out lap. He currently sits in 18th, and we'll hope that he does a little bit better than he did at Mosport, where unfortunately he was out after the first lap. So he starts one last final flyer here just as the time ticks down to 0. So who's getting the checkered flag? Looks like James Tack is going to be one of the first here, and he's actually down in 34th, so he definitely needs some improvement. Let's see what our last of our pro drivers will get. Well, not any faster than a 28.3, it looks like.
Yeah, looks like he's not going to do a whole lot better than that. We got a couple of drivers here working together down the back straightaway. Chris Braun, in particular, one of them, as they come down into the fountain section here at this point. Looks like Joe Stiefel and Ed Nelson right up ahead. That's going to help them a little bit down the long straightaways to be able to get up a little bit of the draft. And I don't think they're going to have to deal with too much aero wash here around here, Joe. So this is probably a pretty good strategy.
Looks like Nelson's going to pull off to the side, trying not to hold up Chris Braun. and he is currently in 5th. In fact, everybody ahead of him has parked it. They're done for the qualifying. Chris has a chance to maybe sneak amongst them, and it won't take much. He's only 2/10 behind the next closest car, and then they're all tight together ahead of him, but it's not going to do it. He doesn't go any quicker.
Yeah, and looks like no improvement there. Nelson also not going to be an improvement. Not surprising there to see him get out of the way. Here is Liam Rutsidas, who we were following a little bit earlier, taking every inch of the road there on the exit of turn 13. Let's see if Liam's got a little bit of something else. I'm seeing some quick times. Can Liam improve up through the field? Yes, he can. That's P6.
Massive improvement. Multiple rows up the order. So that was hugely important that he got back out on the track and started that one last go. But that should be everybody done now. That was one of the last cars to cross the start-finish line as it ticked down to 0. So looks like our grid is set here for the Pro class. This is the fastest and most skilled class that you're going to see over the course of these 2 weeks, and Rafael Amaram has managed to take the pole. Looks like Nicky Chan will start to his outside, and Blake Lair, who's had great qualifying but not so great races, will start from 3rd. Derek Cyphers, as we mentioned, only 0.13 of a second behind in 4th. Chris Braun will start in P5 with Liam Rutsidas jumping up to 6 on his very last lap right as the checkered flag came out. Garrett Taylor was 7th and Fernando Paulino P8. Glenn Dennis starts 9th and James Huth will be 10th, and then we'll cycle through the rest of the field from there on down. So they start to grid up here, DJ, and it is an early morning race, and we saw last night it did seem like that first lap could be a little slippery for a couple cars.
Well, as we get to the grid here, Joe, it looks like it's going to be about 66 degrees Fahrenheit in the air and about 66 degrees on the track right now. So that is going to be a little bit on the chilly side for these drivers. You know, it's going to be very, very tough, I think, particularly coming up on over turn 2. Watch for that to be a little bit of a problem area.
We didn't have any major wrecks on the first lap with the club class last night. They all seem to be very, very intent on trying to make it through there. That said, there was some beating and banging. There was some damage on a couple cars afterwards, but nobody came into pit lane after the end of the first lap. Everybody was able to keep going. It was after that eventually this track caught up with them, and laps later we started to see some retirees and some major incidents between cars. Also saw a lot of black flags, many of them, DJ, for drivers who spun and wound up making contact in some form or fashion, which isn't too much of a surprise. It's hard to get out of the way here.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's only a couple areas where you can pretty easily get out of the way if you've got a faster car coming up behind you. That's going to be on Central Avenue, the run from turn 2 to turn 3, on the Strand from 6 to 7, and on the Strand again from 11 to 12. But that's about it, Joe. And so for a lot of these drivers, you have just got to be on your toes. You got to be very, very careful, and you've got to look after your tires. This isn't a particularly abrasive track, but as we talked about with the high number of low-speed corners, it is a little bit easy to spin the rear tires and get a little bit more wear to build in.
Well, if you believe in the omens of numbers, it's very close to how it started last time for Chris Braun. He started at P4 and came away with the win up in Canada. So as we hop across the border, starting from 5th, will it be similar, or will it be one down in 2nd instead this time around, as Rafael Amaram now has control of the field with the pace car in, and the green flag is out. It's a decent start for Rafael as they come into Casino Way. How aggressive will we see them? A little bit of 3 wide, about 3 rows back, but a big checkup as they decide that's a bad idea into there. Ooh, somebody with a big bobble coming off of turn 2. Looks like they've hit the wall, and this has caused a massive accident in the midfield. I'm seeing about 6 or 7 cars caught up with it. We'll try and check into that a little bit later, but that was what we feared.
Yeah, it looks like Garrett Taylor, Rick Reisenberg, Robert Rose, potentially Oregon Gerlap involved in that as well. And Joe, unless my eyes deceive me, there was a car up into the air, so that is going to be very, very rough running there for them.
Yeah, it was Garrett Taylor who had a little bit of a wobble. I'm not sure if he had some ghost contact, but unfortunately, because everybody was trying to sort themselves out, there just wasn't enough space, and he got ran into, and that's what popped him into the air, unfortunately. So we continue to watch Amaram, who leads ahead of Lair, and Nicky Chan sits in 3rd, being very closely followed by Fernando Paulino.
Yeah, very, very closely followed by Polino here. Definitely trying to do one of the things that we've talked about is the crucial way to try to get an overtake done here at Detroit Belle Isle, and that is apply constant pressure to the driver up in front. Try to be able to see just if you can force a little bit of a mistake there.
Completing lap 1, didn't get away completely away from things this time, but at least we see most of the cars manage to get to the at least the pit entry. Reinsberg and Taylor had to take a tow from that initial accident. We'll see if anybody behind them has to come in. Looks like Robert Rose has an incident, and Mark Nistor has taken it into pit lane, probably to take his spare car. We come into turn 3. Amorim is starting to stretch away here in the early days, and DJ, he might need this once we come around to get to the lap traffic.
Yeah, that's a little bit of what we saw yesterday as well. Traffic giveth, traffic taketh away. A little bit of that play back and forth for them. But I will also say for Amorim, this is a track that if you make a slight little bobble around one of these corners, that is going to throw you off, and you're going to end up losing more than just the time through one corner itself. You're going to lose a lot of time around the sequence of corners. So one little mistake, and we could see Blake Lair coming in behind him as we now check in on Leif Peterson.
Well, Gungeralp and Robert Rose also in the pit lane taking their spare cars. This is the battle for 11th. That is Glenn Dennis just in front, who we hop on board with right now. They've dropped off of Robert Rattray, who is right on the edge of that top 10 in front of them. And then we see another train building behind him. Trey Drawhorn in there. Looks like Muehlbauer, Ed Nelson, Dave Schwartz, Dave Craig, Arthur Chan. It goes a ways back. We come around 12 and 13. We now complete lap 2, and Amorim is still leading the way. Eisenring here, who is chasing on Gabriel Albano. This is for 20th position, down into Casino Way as well between the pair of them. And on to Central Avenue themselves as well. That was right up against the wall there for the 13. Not sure if he actually touched it. Whoa, look at in front of them as we got cars dipping and diving. That's Dave Schwartz going defensive on Dave Craig. Arthur Chan tries to capitalize, but nothing doing.
Nothing doing there as now we try to see if they're going to be able to work their way here through 4 and 5. Now it's going to be a matter of trying to set up through turn 6. Joe, I think that's going to be the area that you've got to try to maximize going on to the strand here. That's where you want to try to get that speed if you can.
Here's the onboard with Dave Craig, still behind Dave Schwartz. Schwartz lost a lot of time to those in front of him with him trying to defend that way. Is this a lapped car? Yes, it is. This is Garrett Taylor that they are approaching, and this is proving a little problematic for Schwartz.
Yeah, that's a little bit tricky there for Schwartz to try to get around, and that's going to pull him back into the hands here of Dave Craig. Good concentration from Dave, just keeping everything together. He doesn't want to be too aggressive down to that point at the corner. He just wants to try to see if there's anything that he can pick up here on one of these longer straights.
Taylor's not got many places he can disappear, but this is a good one right here. Pulls off to the side and actually is heading into pit lane as well. So I wonder if he's just going to go through pit lane to let the field go, since he knows he's not really racing anybody right now and might as well just let the majority of them past him. Chris Braun in 7th is behind Derek Cyphers. Not close enough to try and attack here into turn 3. Both of them sending it as deep as they dare.
Yeah, and that's one of those areas that we talked about is a potential overtake zone, but the track really narrows up there on the exit of turn 3, so you've got to be very, very committed to be able to make that move work.
Back to Drawhorn once again. We were watching him earlier with Leif Peterson. Ooh, almost looked like he clipped the inside wall there through 6. I'm not sure if he actually did, but he got mighty close. And as they approach turn 7, don't think that Trey is going to have an opportunity here. But just wait, they'll come eventually. You'll see a lot of this where drivers will kind of be stuck behind maybe someone who isn't as fast as them, just waiting for a mistake.
Yeah, just waiting for that moment or waiting for the time to be able to get the exit off of some of these crucial corners absolutely perfect, Joe. And sometimes that actually requires backing off a little bit and trying to plan yourself up for the run. We may see those drivers do that as the race continues to go along.
Oh, Glenn Dennis, I think maybe had a problem and has now taken a tow. Suddenly saw him just dropping position after position. And it looks like an incident on the way out of out of the fountain section. Yeah, you're going to see it here. Watch the car on the left-hand side when it comes up to turn 11. This is a strange place to hit the wall, though.
Yeah, it is, and I wonder if that may be just a little bit of brake bias problems there for him. It's a tricky corner coming up through turn 10. You've got to be applying the brake as you're opening up the steering wheel into turn 11, and I wonder if he maybe just had that brake bias set a little bit rearward, and that locked it up on him.
Yeah, that's a good point. That could be the case out there. This is Amarim still leading Lair, and it's about 1.2 seconds between them currently. So Amarim is sitting in a good position, and he's got, looks like maybe another 3 or 4 laps before he catches up to Robert Rose in front of him. That'll be the first of the traffic, but that's just one car. It's a long ways up to the next one ahead, and here is a good illustration of that right now. So most of the pack is still very clumped in one space here at lap 5.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that is going to separate this out a little bit from yesterday is the fact that Amarim, Laird, Chan, and Polino all have a relatively sizable gap in between themselves and the driver in front or behind them. So that's going to help separate things out a little bit at the front of the field, and I think you're going to see some less aggressive needs to necessarily be trying to get by another driver at that point. You've got more time to kind of relax on it.
Well, we've already lost 2 of them. Rick Reinsberg and Glenn Dennis are officially out of the race. Everybody else got their spare car who's had damage and have gotten back out there. Arthur Chan hasn't experienced any damage that we've seen quite yet. That's still Dave Schwartz in front of him, now without a lapped car to deal with. And Dave Craig is leading the train instead. So he must have managed to get by Dave Schwartz. At least I think that was reversed around before. And they come into 4 and 5. It's still quite a close train behind Craig. They've also got McNeely, Albano, Eisenring, and Campbell in there.
Yeah, this is starting to be a big train, and this is something that we are not unused to seeing here at Detroit. You get these big trains that start to build up. Ooh, a little bit of a blink there in front, but that's Jay McNeely. That's going to be a little bit disconcerting if you are Gabriel Albano. That is the last thing you want to see around a tight twisting circuit like this.
Yeah, indeed. You know, and especially if something happens to that car in front of you, if they blink back into existence across the track, like I said, you have no place to go in most situations, so it's already difficult enough as it is. Well, they are on lap 6 now of this race, actually starting lap 7 already, and they are ticking off very quickly in these first 10 minutes. It's a very torrid pace out there, but we're not seeing many opportunities for drivers to make passes. Rootsitas up 1 position from where he began. He is up into 5th.
Yeah, but he's got a little bit of company there behind him. Cyphers, Braun, and Huth behind him as they close in there. You can see out the back of that 05 machine, a little bit of a train starting to form. I don't think here at this point that Derek Cyphers, who's the car directly behind him, is in position to put a lot of pressure to the back of him, but still, that view in the rear view mirror is going to be a little bit disconcerting for Rootsitas.
No doubt about that, and especially with a number of cars really following so closely behind. He's got to be really on it here, not making mistakes, not letting the pressure get to them as you watch them come down the strand along the river, the Detroit River. Derek Cyphers here giving watch on Liam Rootsitas as they come into the fountain section. Extremely single file through here, one of the narrowest parts of the track and the twistiest.
Yeah, this is a very tricky section, Joe. We talked about already the dangers and the difficulties there of coming through turns 10 and 11, but trying to carry as much momentum as possible through 7, 8, and 9. Equally tricky, as you said, very narrow. The margins are absolutely infinitesimal in that fountain section.
Jumping on to James Huth, who's towards the back of that train in the number 12, up 2 spots from where he began this race currently, as he sends it down into Casino Way. It's going to take a pretty good exit from somebody in this group to see it pass down into turn 3, but man, they all are basically on rails in this group. We kind of expect that with the pro class. These guys know what they're doing.
Yeah, they very much do. And you saw a little bit of movement there from Chris Braun, just trying to see if he was able to maybe elicit a little bit of a mistake. Here comes a move farther in the back.
That's Arthur Chan on Dave Schwartz. Gets it down to the inside of turn 3. He'll have to finish the job, but he gives plenty of space, and Schwartz is going to try and fight back. They're going to go 3 wide. McNeely, no. He backs out of that one, and great defense as Arthur Chan does, in fact, defend and, managed to go by Dave Schwartz with an excellent attack.
Yeah, but Schwartz here looked like he had some pretty good speed coming out of turn 5. He's going to try to see what he can do coming down the strand, but I think there that is going to be Chan able to stretch away a little bit. Very, very good running there for those two. Good respect shown for each driver.
Absolutely. He could have tried to feed him outwards, but, that could have resulted in some tears out there. So gave him that space that he needed, and he got the position anyway in the end, even if it was a corner later. Next up for Arthur Chan, it'll be Dave Craig, who, as we mentioned, passed Schwartz earlier, but has made good use of that little battle to pull away from Arthur by about a second and a half.
Yeah, doing a very good job to try to be able to keep their way up ahead. We ride on board with Dave Craig. He's got a little bit of breathing room between himself and Arthur Chan to the tune of about 1.5 seconds. I think that's going to be enough for him to breathe easy here for the moment, but we'll have to see what Chan's pace is now that he's been released from Dave Schwartz.
Dave has good taste in haircuts, I must say, as he carries on down into turn 3. And a little bit of a pop out once again, as it looks like now it's McNeely on Schwartz. Man, Dave just cannot get out of the fights today.
No, he really, really can't, as now McNeely's the one putting the pressure to the back of him, and as there was we look out of the back wing, it's not like Davis got some damage. I think he's just in his head a little bit here at this point, Joe. You get one of those drivers to make a pass on you, you kind of get into your head a little bit, you start checking your rear view mirrors a little bit more, and that's what can happen. But he's got a nice gap here on the strand, that'll be for sure.
Leif Peterson lost 11th place to Trey Drawhorn. This might be worth a replay. Coming through turn 6, I'm not sure if he scraped the wall on the way in, but he definitely had a big slide going through the corner, but thankfully did not send it into the tire barrier. Still, it was enough that Trey brought that green and black car past him. So here we go. This is a good look at it. This is Drawhorn, and Peterson's going to have the incident here. Yeah, it looks to me like he actually hit the wall.
Yeah, I think he might have just a little bit, and while there may not be a lot of damage on the car, that's going to be enough to blunt the momentum. Let's watch on board here from Leif as he comes up into turn 6. Little bit of a thunk there on the wall, and there's the overcorrection, and that is what got him back around.
Ooh, Shane McNeely into pit lane, checking to see if he had any sort of incident out there as well. And I'm not seeing anything in the immediate past there. So interesting stuff. Although he did have a bit of a slide coming through 12 and 13. So taking service, should be back out relatively quickly. We will see a scheduled pit stop for fuel in this race. Robert Rattray has not pitted yet himself in the 033. And wow, Trey Drawhorn must have been held up a bit by Peterson, because he's suddenly all over Rattray.
Yeah, that's really, really impressive. Oh, no, that's the reason. Look at that, Joe, on driver's right on the rear wing there, a little bit of damage. That's why Rattray is getting hounded down here by Trey Drawhorn.
Doesn't look like he had enough caution, unfortunately, and is paying for it. Also, an update on Shea McNeely. There is a meatball flag for that car, which means he was forced to come in and take repairs. I still don't know what exactly caused it, but so that was not a scheduled pit stop, and it looks like Shea might be out of the race because he's not in the car right now. Ooh, little poke there from Drawhorn on Rattray.
Yeah, and that's not normally an area where you see overtaking done, but I think he was just trying to elicit a little bit of an error. We watch on board here with Leif Peterson as he closes down on the back of these two battlers in front. A little bit of a defensive move there from Rattray, a little bit of a blink there from Drawhorn, but that's going to be moved done and dusted, and Leif Peterson wants a piece of it too.
Peterson gets to the inside of Robert Rattray, and he is going to get through in turn 4. That's 2 positions down in 2 turns for poor Robert. He's also got Muehlbauer just behind him, along with Nelson. So it's just compacting, unfortunately, compounding here for Robert Rattray as multiple drivers have not only already passed him, but are lining up to try and do the same from behind.
Yeah, and I think for Rattray, this is just a matter of playing the clock a little bit. He has got to try to hold on to as many positions as possible until that pit stop window opens up, Joe, and he'll be able to come into pit lane, take that spare car, and get service done on that yellow and black machine.
Yeah, that pit window should be open about right now, actually, so don't be too surprised if we get one or two takers, maybe from towards the back of the field. Rutsidas hasn't made any progress since we last checked in with him. He's still in 5th. He's still chasing behind Paulino and still has the same cars in a train behind him. Now down actually to Matthew Siddall in the 55 in 9th place.
And this is looking out the back here of Rutsidas right now. I've been keeping my eye on this train a little bit, and Rutsidas has actually been able to catch into the back of Fernando Paulino as well. So the battle is on not only for this 5th place position, but for 4th as well.
That was a big slip up down through turn 3, but it's such a short shoot into 4. Cyphers had no place to go with it, so he had to stay in line. Only so many times you can get away with that, though, if you're the car in front.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit careful on doing it. You don't want to be too aggressive with that kind of move. Let's see, though, here as they close down. A little bit of a defensive line from Paulino. I think just trying to break the draft a little bit coming down Strand Drive.
Yeah, I didn't think that Liam was close enough. He really could have attacked there. So, yeah, I doubt that was a legitimate defense from Paulino. Just maybe trying to see if he can get farther away. He's fallen about 9 seconds off the lead, which is still Amarim for those curious. Lair second, Chan third. So that's your podium. Yeah, we saw a little flash there of Nicky Chan at the bottom of the screen as they came out of the fountain section. We're going to hop on board with Chris Braun now in the 258s, down 2 positions from where he started.
Yeah, he's going to be kicking himself a little bit, but he is going to be coming down into pit lane, and that was the point I was just about to make if I was some of the drivers plugged up in that battle. Because of how close this field is running, I think there's a decent chance you can come down pit lane and find yourself in some clean air.
Yeah, I'm watching, and I do believe you're right. I think he'll either hit a gap or he'll come out behind almost quite literally everybody. And as we watch from Matthew Siddall, one less car in the train at this point. Keeping my eyes, and yeah, Braun is definitely going to get into a nice little open space here. Oh, it's perfect. It is absolutely perfect. He's got a ways to go before he gets to Mazzariello, who is the next car up in front of him. There you see him right now.
Yeah, that's going to be a good little area to run there for Brown. That is clearly some good spotting there if he's got a crew working behind him, or he has just got a 6th sense in being able to recognize when that gap is going to appear.
This is an interesting penalty that we don't see very often. Dave Schwartz given a black flag for blocking, and unfortunately, I don't know that we saw that incident. So this was a while ago from what I'm seeing on the timestamp for it, and I can get confirmation now that McNeely is officially retired from the race. Robert Rose has also since retired and will be scored 31st. We're down to 29 cars still out on the track.
All right, as they continue to go right now, keeping our eyes here as we've got another taker down into pit lane. That's going to be Robert Rattray doing exactly what I thought about.
Yeah, does seem like we're seeing this amongst the drivers that are interested in just kind of getting out of whatever train that they're stuck in. Saw somebody else behind him. Oh, that's Schwartz serving a penalty, so that is not him taking a scheduled pit stop. Now is Cyphers. Well, this train has kind of been dwindling a little bit. It's now down to, looks like only 5 cars fighting for this 4th position. Will we see another one of them duck off here on lap 14?
We very well might. I mean, we could see some of these drivers who recognize that there is that little bit of a gap that Brown was able to find himself in. I wouldn't be surprised here if James Huth, who really brings up the train here with Matthew Siddall, if either of them try to go on in. Now, if I'm up in the front of this, if I'm Paulino, I've got plenty of clear air in front of me. I am not thinking about pitting in. I want to keep running and maybe run until the very, very end, try to go for the overcut here.
Yeah, it all depends on how you want to try and play this out. And as they approach the pit entry soon, I can tell you that Amarim Man, he's already past the start-finish line. It's now up to 2.3 seconds past the nearest car. No, Paulino's going to be the one that comes in. Interesting. Doesn't like that pressure. He's the only one of that group that pits in. And it's just about exactly 2/3 of the way through this race. Rattray naturally came out behind Chris Braun by quite a few seconds, about 5 seconds, and is actually in even more clean air than Chris Braun. Has a lot of open racetrack around him. As we watch from behind, Liam Brzezitis has taken over that 4th position. Cyphers, Huth, and Siddall all bumping up a position as well.
Now, what's going to be interesting for me here, Joe, and something I'm going to be keeping my eye on is if Liam is able to put in some better lap times now that he has been released out from behind Paulino. His last lap was a 28:15. We'll have to see if he's able to go a little bit faster. If he is, I think that's bad news here for Fernando.
Let's not forget, it's also down to how quick you were in the stall. It was 15 seconds for Paulino. Braun was 13, 2 seconds quicker, and it paid huge dividends. He is now ahead of Fernando, and I don't believe he was before.
No, he was not. He was definitely mired back in that pack there. So clearly Brown maybe has a little bit of the fuel whispering going on here as we continue to watch Brzezitis coming out of turn 13 right now, working his way down into turn 14. Let's see if anybody else decides to peel on in. It's going to be Cyphers now who's got to respond.
Interesting. It's not often that we see this, though. This many of the front runners coming in this early. But I guess they're getting some word in their ear about how well it's worked for Chris in that 258 machine, and each trying to imitate that. Let's see. Oh, Cyphers missed his pit stall. Oh, no.
Heartbreak there for Cyphers, but I do want to bring up that this is playing out beautifully here for Liam Brzezitis, a 27.52 on his last time around. That's about 7/8 of a second faster than his last lap, and that was his personal best lap of the race. So Brzezitis absolutely cashing in on that front air in front of him.
Cyphers still manages to get out ahead of Paulino, though. Maybe I misspoke there. Let me see. No, it looks like it was a normal pit stop time, so maybe it was just a trick of the shadows, and he did not actually wind up missing his pit stall, because it looks like a normal cone-to-cone for Derek Cyphers as we watch with Nistor, who is racing these guys for position, but is on a different strategy.
Yeah, Nistor came in there on the first lap. Joe, I wonder if that was maybe to get a spare car. I wonder if he may have been involved in some of that action that we saw early on. And so that could be the reason why he's a little bit farther back in the field and being shown as on that alternate strategy.
I do not show the 95 having taken a spare car. I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because I didn't check Paulino and Rattray, and both of them did. So maybe they did have a little brush with the wall or something somewhere, and those two elected to take that spare car. Nistor did have to take his free repair, hence why he is back amongst them, but not so for the 258 or for the 95 machine. Riding on board with Paulino as Nistor's actually in now. So Nistor's going to take what is actually his pit stop. And Fernando is freed up just a little bit and moves up one position. So we continue to have 29 drivers out on track circulating.
Yeah, 29 drivers out on track, and here is your leader, Rafael Amorim, leading since the drop of the green flag and extending that gap up forwards here at this point, upwards of about 2.4, 2.5 seconds right now as they run. Interestingly, though, Joe, Amorim does not hold the fastest lap of the race. Right now, that distinction goes to Nicky Chan with a 127 flat.
Interesting. And Nicky's down in third. Clearly some speed in that 000. So getting close to the halfway mark of this race, and is doing a great job. And, you know, I almost wonder if maybe it's because of our sponsor that he's that quick, because, well, driving technique, car setup, and telemetry analysis are just a few things you need to squeeze every last tenth out of your lap time. Join our very own physicist, Nicky Chan, who you may know from his P4 finish at last season's Pro Class, as he explains all this and more in scientific yet easily digestible YouTube videos at lasttenth.com. Watch today so that you can enjoy squeezing every last tenth off of your lap time and beat those personal bests. Last tenth, better car, better driver.
Clearly, you can see here, Nicky Chan, one of the reasons why you want to go over and subscribe to the Last Tenth. We just talked about the fact that he's got the fastest lap of the race, and he is definitely putting on a very, very worthy performance here today, wringing every last tenth out of that car.
And still sitting on the podium here. So he's looking good for a decent finish, even if he hasn't been able to keep up with Lair and Amarim. See what the pit stops have for Nicky Chan once he heads in for his. And Ritsidis keeps carrying on. We haven't seen him pit in. We're waiting for James Huth and Matthew Siddall. That's the last three of that front group that pitted. Their rivals are now starting to hit some of that traffic. Chris Braun, unfortunately, has not seen those around him pit in recently yet. You can see Derek Cyphers has caught up with him because of it, so I wonder if they're starting to lose a little lap time now to their rivals.
I wonder if they are indeed. And by the way, I have a sneaking suspicion that Rafael Amarim is listening to our broadcast, because after I mentioned that he did not hold the fastest lap of the race, he just went out and posted the first sub 127 lap time, a 126.97. So Amarim responding there to me.
Wow. So Rafael, who's been a champion in the PCA before and very much a race winner, has got his wits about him on this one. Watching the 25 of Paulino in the meantime. Also catching up to the back of Cyphers. Remember, he lost a couple positions through that pit sequence. And those drivers being held up in front of him has been a little bit of a boon, a little bit of a help. I'm sure he would have liked to have been ahead and had that track position for now, but at least he's caught them back up.
Yeah, he's been able to catch him back up here, and so he'll be able to sit in the catbird seat and try to work his way forward. But we really haven't seen that number 25 on the attack. Remember, he was on the defense for the majority of the race, at least over that first half of it, so we'll have to see how he responds here at this point.
So just about to the halfway mark of this race. And Amarim leads Lair, leads Chan. Ritsidis now about 5 seconds behind those top three. We jump on board the mid-pack with Joe Stiffel and Gabriel Bono just in front of us. They've also got, that looks like Eisenring, yeah, just up the way in front of them in the 929. A little spread apart, but honestly, if it was me, DJ, I wouldn't mind being a little spread apart right now. I think I'd rather be focusing on the race.
Yeah, I'd be in the same way, Joe. You're just at that 30-minute mark. You're halfway through the race. That's a good position for you to be in. You're going to have a little bit of relaxation and relief flooding over your body at that point, and you don't want to have any extra sort of nerves bringing your way in there for you. And I think if you are running a little bit closer, you're going to have those nerves, and you're going to get your adrenaline flowing a little bit more.
Farther down, this is Patterson being chased by Velez and Schwartz. Remember, Schwartz had to serve that drive-through penalty, so a little bit out of position. Very close fight brewing. Let's see if anybody gets the run coming out of turn 6. And it looks like a much better exit for Patterson. Not so for Velez. Schwartz approaching the back of that number 33. Does he dare try and sneak it up the inside? The answer is going to be no, but it does look like Schwartz goes a little deep in the corner, keeps it out of the wall, and there's just not enough space for Schwartz to go through.
No, there is, and he certainly thought about trying to get that move gone, but it just didn't look like it was there. We'll have to see if there's a little bit of a yield here potentially coming out of turn 11 right now. Ooh, that car leading the train right there. It does look like that is missing the hood. I believe that's 18th place car of Patty Patterson right there. Some hefty damage on that multicolored Porsche.
You are correct, yeah, and the front splitter is all messed up. Well, there we go. Velez has had enough and is going to pit in, so looks like the 33 is going to abandon that group, and that is going to make the likes of Braun, Cyphers, and Paulino very happy because they were the ones that were suddenly approaching the back of them.
Yeah, they're going to be in a much better position here at this point, but they're still going to have to deal with a little bit of that lap traffic up ahead. It looks like Paulino's starting to get a little bit aggressive there. You saw him in the background of that shot, taking a peek to the inside of Derek Cyphers, taking a little bit too much of the curb there, though, and that's going to set him back here for the time being.
Yeah, I've watched a couple drivers get really on top of these curbs, which surprised me because Porsche not known for being all that great over them, and there's some pretty tall curbs at this track.
Yeah, there's some very, very aggressive curbs around this track. There really isn't one that you can clobber over like we're used to saying in a lot of these GT3 machines. And you've got to be very, very careful. The Porsche, not exactly the best curb climber. And so you've got to watch it a little bit, because if you just get that slightly bit thrown off, that's a one-way ticket to the wall, Joe.
Now officially past the halfway mark, and I'm waiting to see if we get anybody into pit lane. Ooh, Albano just had an issue. Did he have a run-in with the wall? Doesn't look like it. Just, oh, actually, you know what? Maybe he did. I think out of 12, between 12 and 13, and he's going to bring it into pit lane because of that. Joe Stifel does as well.
Yep, we're going to have a couple more takers down into the pits here, as I definitely think you're going to see more and more of these drivers opting to come on down to pit lane. Now, we expect this pit stop window to stay open till about 15 minutes left to go, but that should be about the final part.
So, not sure if we'll get a replay on Albano, but I'm pretty certain he had some wall contact, and in fact, let me see. Spare car has been taken by the 13, so could have been for something else, but that makes me suspect that he did indeed have a little bit of a clip. Here we go. Down in a 12, double right-hander. Yeah, there you can see clouded it.
Yep, just got it a little bit wrong and got that outside wall, and he's going to bring it down into pit lane.
He's already back out. He's in 24th. Thankfully, didn't slow up the pit stop since it was a free repair. So all's well that ends well for that one. Watching with James Huth, who still has yet to pit. One big difference is, yes, we did see a little cloud cover yesterday in the club class, but I feel like we've gotten way more this time out in the pro class this morning.
Yeah, Joe, it's only about 9:15 a.m. virtual standard time right now, but the track temperature has stayed pretty cool. It's down to about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. That's maybe up a degree or two since the beginning of the race. And so that means that, frankly, at this point in the race, these tires are going to be in perfect operating conditions for this track. They are going to be able to keep themselves going around here, not have to worry about overheating, and be doing just a great job.
We're kind of in a bit of a holding pattern at this point, it's felt like. We're not seeing many overtakes, especially not without mistakes, unless Arthur Chan has something to say about that. That's Dave Craig in front of him. And, well, I thought that maybe he was going to try something because he was within inches of that rear bumper, but he's not willing to try it quite yet. We now hop on board with Craig once again.
Yeah, and Craig here just keeping his eyes ahead. You can see he's not really glancing back behind him. That's the good call. I'm a little bit surprised we didn't see Chan go for the move, but we'll have to see if he lines it up a little bit better.
Maybe he's figuring he wants to pit in. He doesn't want to bother trying to pass him on the track. Let's see here as they come through 12 and 13. Here's the pit entry off to the right-hand side. Driver's right, really. But no, neither one is heading in. Could be setting up maybe for the run down here. Along Central Avenue to turn 3. Sidal certainly not setting up Huth. He's too far behind. Huth is a lot closer to Routsitis, although he kicks up a lot of dirt, sending it a little too hard down into turn 3.
Yeah, just a little bit too much there. He's able to gather everything back up under him and stay relatively close behind Huth up in front of him, so that's going to be good running. But here is Chris Braun now finding himself held up a little bit behind Paddy Patterson in that very wounded car up ahead. I'm frankly surprised that we haven't seen Patterson slipping down the order even more.
Yeah, Braun running 28.2, 29.1, and 28 flat. He takes a little look, but is unable to work his way in. Compare that to Routsitis, who's leading the train that he was a part of. It's all 27s except for a single 28.3 from the 05. So at first it looked like the right call if you're the 258, but now I think that plan is unraveling.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. This does not look like it is in good position as we focus in on the number 12, that battle with Rositas, Huth, and Sadal right now. Little bit of space. That was Huth running that car to the absolute limit on the exit of turn 13.
I've already seen him have that off down through turn 3, so yeah, I think he's hustling that number 12 right now. Let's see if he does the same. Keeps it well within the boundaries over turn 2, thankfully, as that one is known for really eating up cars. Let's see how he handles 3 this time around, as last time he gathered up a lot of sod, and this time he keeps it out of the dirt, so a little bit smoother.
Yeah, a little bit smoother there, able to keep everything up and underneath them. That's the way you need to run. 24 minutes left to go on the clock. You don't want to find yourself pushing over the limits here at this point, Joe. You've got to keep everything calm, cool, and collected for the entire 60-minute run.
Well, it's been a bit since we had another retirement. James Tack is the next one. He winds up counted 29th. Garrett Taylor is now the last running. The only driver a lap down, interestingly. Only a single car has been lapped, and that's the 529. That actually makes me wonder if we could pull up our map again just to see where everybody sits on the track, because surely, yeah, that's a lot more spread out. Now, there's not as many cars on the track as what we saw in the club class, so I think that's kind of become the saving grace here.
Yeah, I think it is as well, Joe. I think that's really the reason that we've only got 34 as opposed to, 48 that we had yesterday, somewhere up in that general area. So I think that's the reason why we're seeing a little bit more of that spacing out and less drivers finding themselves a lap down.
I can tell you that Amram just had to lap Velez right now, and then he's got Nistor up in front of him. So he is coming across a few of the cars. We've been watching Arthur Chan in the meantime, along with Dave Craig. This is the battle for 11th, but we're waiting to see where the positions cycle through to after the pit stops. After an initial flurry, DJ, it just kind of dissipated. We had a whole bunch of people reacting to one another, and now everybody else is going to play the more expected route of wait till the car is out of gas.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised by that as well. I mean, we had a pretty substantial flurry of pit stops at around the 30-minute mark in yesterday's race, so I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen more drivers opting to come down into pit lane. But I think at this point, for a lot of these drivers, if you are able to stay out on track right now, you might as well take this thing to the bitter end.
Well, and yeah, they've been doing decent laps, so there's just not been much incentive. Speaking of incentive, James Huth feels plenty, because now he's starting to really harass Rositas, trying to stick his nose in various places. We saw this last night. In fact, that same move, trying to make a pass coming into 11, DJ, with another battle that came down to psychology. Well, no psychology anymore for James Huth, other than ducking into pit lane and now taking his scheduled stop.
Yeah, and he's going to bring Leif Peterson on in with him as well. So drivers coming in out of 7th and 8th position there. You can see them on your screen as they pull themselves in. Meanwhile, no sign of stopping here from Rafael Amorim as he continues to work his way around in that number 2 machine. The gap now up to about 3.5 seconds in between himself and Blake Laird.
So 21 minutes. Leif Peterson in and now out. Oh, my goodness. Has Peterson already had his pit stop? He's going to jump Huth. How did he manage to jump Huth 4 seconds longer? James maybe missed his pit stall or something there. And just now, I think he actually, on the way out, I think he clipped the wall. He's now staying close to the right-hand side. Yeah, he had contact with the concrete, and he's taking a tow.
Oh my goodness gracious, this is absolutely all coming to naught here for Huth. I can't believe it, Joe.
It didn't look like a big hit. Oh, there you see it. It didn't initially look like he really hit it hard. We're going to watch it on board. Maybe he just messed up his suspension. Let's see if he's got a meatball flag here, and no, he does not. Man, how strange. This turns everything on its head, which also kind of kicks things off for Blake Laird, who just retired.
Oh my goodness.
No, excuse me. Sorry, I called it too quickly. He disappeared as he came into his pit stall. He didn't come back for a couple seconds. He scared me there. Blake, get your connection better. So the 9 is in and out, and sorry, the reports of his death were greatly over-exaggerated. So he's back out onto the circuit around 10th place, and wow, and a lot of clear air.
Yeah, he's going to be able to find some good air to run in as we watch the 959 right now trying to make some move. This is Ed Nelson behind Mubauer trying to see what he is able to do. These are two drivers that have not pitted yet, and they find themselves in 6th and 7th.
So, Rodney Campbell is pitting in. So that's someone in the mid-pack who's taking their service. Where is Braun? Lair came out way ahead of Braun, but he was quite ahead of him even earlier. He and Cyphers. Cyphers is actually ahead of those, the lead of those who is pitted in that little second group that was fighting for 4th place earlier. And there you see Paulino, who is still sitting 3rd in that group, who has pitted behind Chris and Derek right now. Really what we're waiting on is Sadal and Rutsitis to take their service.
Yeah, that's really what we're waiting for out of the front of the field. Nicky Chan looking like he's dropping a little bit of pace there, just did a 128. That's a little bit surprising. But Amarim, I've got a sneaking suspicion here that Amarim could be coming on into pit lane very soon. He just set the fastest lap of the race last time out.
And that's on those worn tires as well. He's been taking care of them extremely well. He's got the wrong track map inside the car, though. I can tell him that. As he comes down towards turn 7 with yet more lap traffic. This time he's caught up to Nistor, but doesn't seem like he's catching everybody at a huge rate, so doesn't seem like he's being truly held up.
No, it doesn't look like he's being held up, but I think this could be the impetus here if I were sitting in Rafael Amarim's position to come on down into pit lane potentially, unless he's able to clear him here very quickly. I don't think he's going to have a whole lot to deal with here. Blake Lair certainly has plenty of space, and it looks like, yep, there comes Amarim.
Good call, DJ. He pits in. Does Chan follow him? So Chan will probably be aware, getting that message, the leader is pitting. Is he going to follow him in, or is he going to run to the beat of his own drum? Looks like he's not going to follow suit, so he'll stay out there. Rutsitis, though, is pitting in. So is Sadal. And Trey Drawhorn is also pitting in. Okay. Looks like this must be close to the end of the pit window for the pace of a lot of these guys. But for Nicky Chan, he's been quick and light on fuel.
Yeah, and that is a very tricky thing to overcome there if you're trying to drive against Nicky Chan. It's one of the things that makes him such a good driver here in this series. And it looks like Nicky may be the only driver to really stay out here. Jeremy Mazzariello is the only other one who owes us a pit stop.
Lair, by the way, out. My goodness, I'm trying to make it out. It looks like he is about 5 seconds behind Rafael Amarim, so wasn't able to gain much in those pit stops. We didn't expect him to really leapfrog him, but of course he could have hoped that maybe the traffic would work out in his favor, although I think Lair may have clipped the wall in turn 2 trying to push, so I'm not entirely sure on that. He's currently sitting behind Arthur Chan out on track, but Arthur has yet to pit himself, so he'll hand this position over soon enough.
Yes, he will. And excuse me there, we are still waiting on pit stops as well from Ed Nelson and Arthur Chan. Those are, along with Nicky Chan and Matthew Mubauer, those are the only drivers who are waiting for. But as I say that, Nicky Chan comes down into pit lane.
If Mubauer pits, that'll hand the lead right back to Amarim for now the final 15 minutes. So let's see if Matthew pits in. He's making motions like he is. Yes, he is in. Amarim is now retaking the lead. And it sounds like Braun is trying to get a hold of race control over the radio. I'm trying to see what the reasoning for this is.
I have to see here.
But he says he has an incident. Paulino made a move. We might want to replay on this one. He's going to get to the inside, and there was some contact to make this pass happen. This is a hard one, though, to try and determine who comes out ahead on that one, or who's at fault, rather I should say. if there is a fault to be determined, or is it fair racing? That's for the stewards to decide ultimately. Look at this. Comes up here, DJ. He's going to get the inside. And Chris seemed to take a little bit of offense to this one because, like I said, he went to the stewards afterwards, said, hey, can you take a look at that?
I think that's a move that's going to have to be decided there by race control ultimately, and we will keep you abreast of exactly what that situation is whenever it comes down. But as it stands right now, that is move done for Paulino, and Brown a little bit farther back.
Muehlbauer, in the meantime, is caught up to Chris Braun as well and is on the attack. Lair, I was right, about 5 seconds behind Amorim, with Chan still in front. Chan, the very last driver that needs to pit. And is he finally going to pit in? Yes, with about 15 minutes, 14 minutes actually, left to go. Mr. Twinkle Toes, that number 50, able to really extend his fuel a long ways. Nicky Chan also going to be up into third place once again. No relation there between Nicky and Arthur. Nicky resumes his podium run. Liam Routsitis is going to return back to fourth place after all the drama that we saw with that group fighting for fourth place. They've all fallen away from Liam, including Drawhorn, including Peterson. Everybody involved in it is no longer anywhere near the 05.
Yeah, and it looks like here that there's about a 2.5 second gap or so, let's call it, in between Routsitis and Drawhorn. That's going to be some good breathing room for them, but this is our close battle on track. Brown leading Muehlbauer, leading Sedal side by side there between Chan and Nelson.
Arthur Chan getting by Ed Nelson down into turn 3. Nice pass to get him 12th place. So conventional wisdom in GT racing on iRacing is most often to go as long as you can and pit late, as that makes for the fastest run, all things being the same. But that's all things being the same. That's not taking into account lap traffic and other sort of issues that you can come across. Today, though, it looks like conventional wisdom wound up being the way to go, because it definitely worked out well from Liam Routsitis, who is one of the later pitters of our top group and really reaped the benefits watching through the fountain section as Siddall continues to chase on Muehlbauer for 10th spot, and Chris in front of them in the 258s, just kind of trying to hold on to his position.
Yeah, just trying to see if he can be able to hold on. I did notice there that it looked like Sedal was really able to close in under braking quite a bit there. Excuse me, that is the 55. Yeah, that is Sedal. Was really able to close in under braking going down into turn 7. So maybe a little bit better on the binders here for car number 55. We'll have to keep our eyes open for that to see if that continues to play.
James Huth has been in pit lane for a long time now. And checking to see, oh yeah, that's right, we saw him brush the wall on the way out. So whatever he did to the car, it's been a long time. I think he came out briefly for about a minute and a half to do a lap, and then has come back into the pit lane to take more repairs. Something on the car just isn't right for him. Wonder if he's going to call it a day, since he's been in for another 3 or so minutes. And in the meantime, this is the 24 that we can see on screen. That's Rich Minkler being chased by Nistor. This is for 19th spot. We hop on the roof looking back at the Martini liveried at number 18.
Yeah, trying to keep up here, coming down through turn 5 right now. Looks like Minkler took a little bit of a wider line going through turn 6. That'll probably help him carry a little bit of momentum, and indeed, there you can see it. Better momentum line there for Nistor, for the 24, rather, of Minkler. That's exactly what he needed to do.
Now that the pit stops have finished, that also gives us a more clear view of what's happening out on track. We only have 2 cars that are a lap down. Huth, obviously, multiple laps down, but again, we fear he may have retired and just hasn't officially removed his car from the track here. But Geralp and Taylor, the only 2 that have been gone around by Rafael Amorim. The next one going to be Mazzariello in the number 21. We mentioned it in the qualifying that the pace was mighty close throughout the field, and this is quite the illustration of that thing right there. Just because I would have thought that we'd see a few more cars in this late in the race lapped, but man, it is super competitive here in the Pro class.
Yeah, it really is, Joe. It's an impressive feat as we ride on board with Leif Peterson right now as he tries to work his way up behind, closing in on Trey Drawhorn. That battle that you mentioned a little bit earlier, kind of coming by the wayside just a little bit, not nearly as electric as it was earlier, but still just a testament out to all of these drivers that they are keeping up this fearsome pace.
Here's Trey Drawhorn behind Liam Routzidis and ahead of Leif Peterson. Trey, definitely one of the harder chargers in the race. He's up 8 position. And the number 24 is our hardest charger. He's up 11 positions. Also, Arthur Chan up 10 spots himself. So we've seen some movers and shakers in spite of the fact that it's quite hard to try and pass here today. And this battle, man, this has stayed very close together. Minkler versus Nistor. We were watching it just a few minutes ago. That was a bad run, though, for turn 12 for Mark Nistor, and he now falls away.
Yeah, he's going to find himself losing a little bit of positions there. Dave Schwartz runs in behind them, about at 1.2 seconds behind. I don't think Dave's quite going to be close enough to really make a push here at this point, but we'll have to see if he's maybe got a little bit of legs coming into the final half of this race, especially if Nistor and Minkler start to battle up ahead of him.
Well, unfortunately, Blake Lair was given a warning for his connection officially from the stewards. And I have seen him blink a couple more times, really crossing fingers. This is, I want to say, the first time this season we've seen him manage to stay out of trouble, just basically run a nice, calm race. But if this is what takes a second place away from him, I'm going to be gutted for him.
If Blake didn't have bad luck, he would have no luck at all this season, Joe. And I have been in that position running with a little bit of a spotty connection. There's nothing you can do but just hope and pray that it comes back on when you are in behind the wheel of the sim.
Well, tell your sister to get off of Netflix or something, I suppose. all you can do in that situation. Siddall now chasing on Muehlbauer for 10th spot. They've also got Arthur Chan very tight up behind their bumpers. 7 minutes left to go. Who is willing to risk it to try and get that one more position here for championship points? And who wants to just get to the checkered flag?
Well, that's going to be the real decision here. I mean, I genuinely think that Siddall is in the catbird seat. He just needs to focus on those runs coming off of turn 2 and off of turn 6 to really try to put himself in position. He hasn't really been in a spot at this point, Joe, to show his nose and to see what Muehlbauer is going to do if he were to put himself in that position. So I think he is just very close. He needs to be a little bit closer.
Needs to get within striking distance. We've already seen that you have to be almost right on top of that car to try and outbrake them and get that overlap. Not going to do it there. Into turn 7, we ride with Arthur Chan in that last 10th car. And he has moved his way up 10 positions, as I mentioned earlier. I'm sure he'd love to make it 12. Rack up a top 10 to his stats column. But he's going to have to get a lot closer. He is edging ever forward. Ooh, here we go. If he can stay this close all the way to the run out of Casino Way, he's got a pretty good shot.
Yeah, the question's going to be is if he picks up a little bit of aero wash here coming through 1 and 2. These are really the only high-speed corners on the circuit where you can get a good helping of that aero wash. Ooh, you can see the rear end of that car trying to slip away on him. They're trying to break out from him. He's been able to keep it under control there, but I think he's going to lose any chance of the attack.
Yeah, just didn't quite keep it tucked up underneath him as close as he needed to. Let's not forget, that's Ed Nelson behind them in the 959, and he could spoil the party as well. So Arthur's got to be careful. When he makes an attack, he can't leave himself vulnerable, or else Ed Nelson might be able to pick up the position from him instead of Arthur taking one himself.
Yeah, gonna have to play this a little bit conservatively. You don't want to be too aggressive here. You don't want to run your risk of throwing away valuable points or putting yourself into a position where you can pick up a penalty. You just got to play it calm here, Joe, and that's the most frustrating thing in the world as a racing driver.
Yeah, I can't let his mind get away from him. But to his credit, my experience with Arthur over the years on sim racing, he's actually a very cool call. calm, collected driver in most situations. And that is one of his strengths, no doubt. So we'll see if he can use that to good effect here today. Let's see, how many laps left do we have, actually? Looks like we might be down to about 3, potentially 4 left to go.
Yeah, not a lot of time left on the clock, under 5 minutes, and this is going to be the man that dictates the run here. Raphael Amorim, the car number 2 from the Peach State region, doing a great job to hold on to this race here at this point. He's got about a 4.5-second gap back to Blake Lair behind him. He's just got to keep this thing on the straight and narrow here.
Looks like Lair's not giving up. He's gained about a second on Raphael Amorim, trying to chase him down. I think that's a too little too late situation. Could be that Raphael maybe lost a little time. Let's see what his last lap was. 27.9. It's not super quick. Maybe just a combination of slightly slow for Raphael, slightly fast for Blake. We'll see what the difference is between their lap times this time through, because Raphael is now crossing, and it's going to be a 27.7. Blake crosses the line. It's a 26.7. That's another second faster.
And that's the fastest lap of the race there, Joe. So this may be a little bit too little too late. I wonder if Amorim's just backing it off a little bit. He knows he's got this in the bag. But one way or another, we certainly may have a little bit of a race on our hands.
There's 3 laps to go when they cross the line this last time. Nicky Chan has definitely not been able to keep up with him. He's 14 seconds behind Raphael and Blake. There he is on your screen right now. And, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say Nicky's doing a good job. We've got to jump back here to the other Chan in the field, Arthur Chan, who may have a little bit of a move here on Matthew Siddall going down into turn 3.
Whoa, way late into the corner, too late. He's gonna outbrake himself. He did not stay cool in that situation. Can't quite get it whip turned around enough. More cars will stream by. He thankfully has a gap that he can get back in, but he instead goes from 12th to 15th. Disappointment for the 50.
Yeah, that is not the way you want to be ending your race. You don't want to have to be focusing on that for the next 2 weeks here, as it looks like we've got another little battle. Leif Peterson able to catch up to the back of Liam Rusidis. Excuse me, that is Trey Drawhorn holding off Leif Peterson.
Yeah, still got a battle here for 5th place, and that is Derek Cyphers in there as well. In the 95, just kind of hovering around the back behind them. Now down to 2 laps to go. Looks like the opportunities are going to slip through their fingers unless somebody really gets on top of it from here. They complete lap 39 on to lap 40 now. And we still have 27 drivers on track. Huth is not officially retired, but I think after 13 minutes, we can say that he's out of this race. Man, the stats on the finish, the ratio of finishers has been much higher than I anticipated in these races. And that is a very pleasant surprise for this series. And it's not a knock on the skills of the drivers. It's more a testament to the difficulty of this track and its reputation of just being a right monster to deal with.
Yeah, without question, Joe. This is one of the trickiest circuits on all of iRacing, and just a massive, massive kudos to all of the drivers for being able to keep things on the straight and narrow here today.
White flag is out for Raphael Amorim. He carries on with a handy gap over Blake Lair, who has now got it down to 3.5 seconds. He keeps chipping away at it, but it's just not going to be enough. There you can see Blake on screen now, trying to keep up with the number 2. So just one more cycle around, and this pro class really living up to their name today. This was impressive stuff. Didn't give us as many fights, as much side-by-side fighting as I think we would have liked, but it really kind of nailed down the fact that you have to be almost flawless to be at this level of the PCA.
Yeah, and really and truly on a circuit such as this, to see this many drivers out here and this many non-retirements, absolutely incredible stuff. It is a massive, massive testament here to the series and the league.
And Raphael Amorim ready to rack up another one on his stats. as he comes through the fountain section. It's down to 3 seconds. Back to Blake. I'm almost certain that the 2 is just easing off things, ensuring the car gets home. He doesn't chuck it into the wall. He's had plenty of chance to just kind of give it some margin here since he had such a gap to the car behind him. Only win as quickly as you need to. The Alain Prost method. And it's going to give him another victory here. Raphael Amorim is your winner here at Detroit.
A commanding drive there from Amorim. Great stuff to see him coming across the line as he did. Blake Laird's going to be second, setting the fastest lap of the race as he goes. And then it'll be Nicky Chan coming out of here in third, it looks like.
Shows you how far back Nicky was, but the 000 is probably ecstatic about this podium here today. Liam Routzidis with a 4th, and Drawhorn will hold on to that top 5 in the end. By the way, if I'm seeing correctly, all of those top 5 had 0 incident races, perfect runs.
Absolutely remarkable. And I mean, granted, around a circuit like this, if you even get a 1X, Joe, it's going to be a very tough run for them, but still a remarkable feat for all of those drivers.
Yeah, kind of hard with so little grass around here to get a 1X. Maybe a 2X for brushing up against the wall is a little bit more likely. But as we follow this battle between Schwartz and Minkler, Minkler's got him at arm's length. He is going to get 20th, and 25 cars will wind up on the lead lap here today. So close here for 22nd rather as well. Campbell going to beat him to the line. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. A little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way. Welcome back to Detroit's Belle Isle Circuit, and Raphael Amorim was your winner from the pole, putting on a clinic out there. Wasn't really pressured at many stages, if any stages, of this race. Just kind of ran his strategy and got to the finish cool, calm, and collected. Blake Lair did start to catch up to him towards the end. We suspect that Raphael potentially was easing back to make sure he could get home safely. Blake, with his best finish of the season, taking second. Nicky Chan rounds out your podium. Liam Routzidis was 4th. Drawhorn up 8 spots to get himself a top 5. That's not easy to do, especially at this level of racing. Leif Peterson finished 6th. It was Derek Seifers in 7th and Fernando Paulino P8. Chris Braun was 9th today. Matthew Muehlbauer, wound up gaining 6 positions, finishing 10th. And we'll cycle through the rest of the fields as they finished here today. Of our 34 starters, did wind up seeing 27 of them at the checkered flag. And the first to get to that checkered flag was Raphael Amorim, who takes another victory in his PCA career. Raphael, congratulations on the win. To us, it looks entirely under control through the whole race. Did it feel that way from inside the car?
Oh, absolutely not. This is such a tough track. You need to be focused and in your game 100%. 1 minute that you, or 1 millisecond that you lose focus, you hit the wall, and I actually did that in the end. And Blakey kept me on my toes. He was just so fast, and I was trying to open a gap, and he was just there hanging with me. So he made this a really tough race, and super thrilled to bring the win, and a great race for both Blake and Nicky.
Now, we missed you touching the wall there, so that's an incident that, I'm pretty certain we didn't show on air. Did that slow you up at all at the end? Because we just assumed that you were backing it off just to make sure that you got home.
A little bit. I think I hit the wall and sort of knocked my wheel out of alignment. And then from there on, I was just very cautious. I had a bit of a gap, and I think I'm just going to use the gap rather than try to push and get more damage and then lose the race. So from that point forward, I think I had a bit of damage, but I was just also playing safe and just trying to finish with no more damage.
Well, I'm glad you were able to bring it home. That would have been a real shame considering how dominant you were this entire race. Next time out, we head down to the Midwest in Indianapolis. Can you make it a back-to-back there?
Well, unfortunately, I'm going to be traveling and we'll miss the next race, but hopefully Road America. I love the track and I always have a lot of fun there. So hoping for a good result and recovery since my horrible race last week in Canada or the week before.
Well, again, congratulations. Anybody you want to give a thank you to that helped get you the win today?
Well, first, all of you at Podium, all of the steering committee and the folks that organized this is a great group, all the drivers. This is a lot of fun. Keep enjoying this. And as always, I'd like to thank my wife that supports me through this whole thing.
Fantastic. That was Rafael Amorim in the number 2 with victory here today. Third place, though, went to the 000 of Nicky Chan. DJ's caught up with him.
I have indeed. Nicky, looked like you had a little bit to deal with there at the beginning of the race, but once it got to the end, it would look like some pretty smooth sailing for you. How you feeling about the run out here?
Pretty good. I put myself in a pretty awkward position right at the start, going into T2. It was kind of like a little bit overlap with with Raf, and I didn't want to go for it. But then that kind of really compromised my exit just because of the bad timing. So Blake did a really good job of taking it. But to be honest, like seeing his pace, like I think he would have passed me anyway.
Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the pit stop sequence. We saw a lot of drivers coming in early around lap 15 or so. You were one of the drivers that wanted to hold out and want to go a little bit longer on lap 30. Did you ever have an inclination to come in early, or were you always sticking to your plan?
I was just keeping an eye on traffic. I think, having done the math, like there's not much fuel saving to be had here to make the strategy work. So I just kind of ran the car and decided, I'll pit when I need to pit. And I think Raf and Blake went in, and I looked at my relative. I had probably 8 seconds ahead of me. So I thought, we'll just keep driving until I run out of fuel. Well, just before I run out of fuel.
Well, you did indeed do that. Well, next time out, we take about a 5-hour virtual trip down to Indianapolis, kind of the polar opposite of Detroit. How do you think that'll all go for you?
I don't know. It's a coin toss. I've never driven that track before. Never tried it. Then again, I've never tried Detroit before last week. So, maybe the stars will align for me. But I think what really made the difference was last week at Mosport, or 2 weeks ago at Mosport, I was quite disappointed with my performance and kind of really took a deep look at where my mistakes were. So this time around, I made some changes to my routine and my attitude and my mentality going into this race, and I think it paid off. So if I can kind of keep this going, I hope I can do well.
Well, Nicky, we wish you all the luck in the world when we do get to Indy. But as for today, who do you want to thank?
Definitely want to thank the sponsors, Pirelli and Six Sigma. And obviously I want to, really thank and give a shout out to all those who have been supporting my channel last 10th. And last but not least, got to thank my wife for holding it down the fort when I'm plugged in.
You always got to thank that. Nicky, congratulations once again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks in Indy.
Thank you. See you guys.
That was Nicky Chan, third place, and it looks like we might get to talk here to Blake Lair. We'll see if we can have a chat with him, because that certainly was an impressive run and a redeeming run. Blake, congratulations after 2 disappointing first races. I got to think this one is probably makes up for it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun racing with the guys. I had a couple connection issues. But it was a great race. Rafael was really fast. He had a lot of good pace, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, before you got the notice from race control about your connection, were you aware at all that there was any blinking going on?
About 20 minutes to go, I just saw a couple little glitches. It was bothering me, but I was just trying to ignore it.
And that was my next question is how much was that affecting your focus? Clearly, you were pushing hard to try and catch up to Raphael. He told us that he actually had a clip of the wall and that forced him to back off a little bit. Was that giving you just a sliver of hope?
He clipped the wall pretty early in the race, but he regained himself really well, and he drove a great race. I had a glitch, and I clipped the wall on the front straightaway, oddly, but I think it messed me up a little bit.
Well, it was a fantastic effort, and honestly, an incredibly clean run out there from our perspective for the 9 car. Anybody you want to thank for this first podium of the series?
Yeah, I want to thank PCA Sim Racing for getting me in here. It's a lot of fun. I want to thank my wife for putting up with my racing addiction, and my family and friends, and the team at Porsche Naples.
Great stuff. That was Blake Lair, finished second today in the number 9 machine, his first podium here, and that's going to close us out, but we're not gone yet from Detroit, because we'll see you for the sport class at 9:25 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, November 9th, live here on Podium Esports. We'd like to thank the PCA Sim Racing title sponsors for Series 9, which of course includes Pirelli and Six Sigma Sim Racing, as well as a huge thank you to LastTenth.com, better car, better driver. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, DJ, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak. I'll see you on the track.